a few of my recent videos, I've talked about how it is my main 2021 goal to basically upgrade all of my snake enclosures. But I also mentioned how until I can upgrade my snakes into those enclosures, which is likely still going to be a few months from now because I am planning on building those myself, so it is going to take a little bit of time. So in the meantime, I've talked about how I basically just wanted to do a huge deep clean on my reptile room. I emptied out a ton of my enclosures, including basically all of my snake enclosures, and then I wanted to set all my enclosures back up in a more enriching way than they used to be set up before. So even though my snakes aren't going to be getting their full enclosure upgrades until 2021, they are still going to be getting some nice enclosure makeovers, so that's what we're going to go ahead and do today. So I'm mainly going to be focusing on my ball pythons in this video, but we will talk about some other snakes as well. And I do want to mention at the end of the video, I am also going to be feeding a few of my snakes. Okay, so these are basically what the enclosures look like right now. If you've watched some of my previous videos, you will know that already. So you know, these were obviously just set up as temporary enclosures, so they basically just have a warm hide, a cool hide, and a water dish. And now we're gonna go ahead and get rid of all this. We're gonna take the paper towel out, which is probably a good call. Angel had a big poop today, so we're gonna get rid of the paper towel that's here and switch it out for some cocoa husk substrate. This is the substrate that I'm going to be using for my ball python. So this is just compressed cocoa husk. This is different from cocoa fiber, which is like eco earth. You know, these are more actually like chips rather than a more dirt-like substrate. So I'm just going to be taking this and basically putting it in a large bin, adding some water so then it kind of expands, and then we can go ahead and add it into my enclosures. While I'm over here, I also just figured that I would mention that this stuff that you see right here is stuff that is basically going to be used for my snakes upgrades in the new year. So these here are radiant heat panels. I've personally never used them before, but I do really want to try these out for my new enclosures that I'm going to be building. I think that this is going to be the best way to provide a good ambient heat. So there's 5 of these so far. I will need to buy more, but they're a little expensive, so we have 5 for now. I will be buying more in the future. And then over here we have some different heating devices and stuff, although these aren't actually for my snakes. These are going to be for like my Ackie monitor. Yeah, and this is all some new cork bark that was just purchased recently. This enclosure that you see here isn't actually mine. This is my boyfriend's that he's going to be setting up for one of his animals soon, so that's not part of my upgrades, but these heat panels and stuff are. So this is the bin that I'm going to put this brick in. As you can see, there's already a bit of substrate in here. I made some the other day that I used in some enclosures, so this is just leftover from then. So I'm gonna go and just add this to it, and then this should be enough substrate to cover quite a few different enclosures. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start with Angel, who is in this enclosure right here. So the first thing I'm going to do is just remove Angel herself from this enclosure, put her in a little bin, and then start cleaning it. Alright, so right here we have Angel, so I'm just going to gently take her out of her enclosure. So now I'm just going to take Angel, and if I show over here, you can see I have that bin right there. So Angel's just going to go in that bin temporarily while we clean out her enclosure. Okay, so now I'm just going to remove everything from here. There's not a whole lot right now. There is 2 hides, a water dish, and then a paper towel that needs to come out. Angel did also poop earlier today, so it's a little bit stinky in here. And so now that all of the old substrate is taken out, I'm just gonna go ahead and start adding the new substrate in. Okay, so this is where I'm leaving the enclosures for now. So for tonight, I'm only adding the substrate into them, and then I'm going to be adding all of the decor and enrichment in another video. So this is all we're doing for now. So let's go ahead and grab Angel and get her back in her enclosure, and then we'll move on to the next one. All right, so Angel here is going right back in her enclosure. Looks like someone else had a big poop also. Okay, so all of my snake enclosures behind me here are done for now. Obviously, they are not done. As I mentioned, I still have to add all of the decor and enrichment and everything in them, but I'm probably going to do that tomorrow because my lights are about to turn off down here. So I'm also just going to make that into a whole video on its own. So if you want to see how I set up all of these enclosures, make sure you stick around. But for now, let's just take a quick look at how they're looking for now, and then let's start feeding some snakes. Obviously, like I said, things are pretty simple looking right now until I get everything added in, but here's what we are working with right now. So every enclosure now has substrate in it. So I have my rainbow boa, sand boa, children's python, ball pythons, and milk snake. So all of these guys have substrate now. My ball pythons all have the cocoa husk, same with my milk snake and my rainbow boa. My sand boa has just aspen, and then my children's python has an aspen cypress mulch mix. And I also did my corn snake enclosures. Again, these are going to be getting all of their decor and enrichment added tomorrow. But for now, they, are just left with substrate, some hides, and water bowls. So as I mentioned, I am going to be feeding a few snakes, so I wanted to just kind of come on and give this little warning right now. If you're someone who doesn't want to see snakes eating frozen thawed food, then feel free to click away now. I hope that you enjoyed the video up until this point. But for those of you who do want to see the feeding, let's just go ahead and get right into it. So something I do want to point out is that I only added substrate to these 3 enclosures today. The other enclosures were done on previous days, earlier this week. The reason I wanted to point this out is because I am not going to be feeding any of my snakes that have gotten their enclosures redone today. In fact, I'm not going to be feeding any of my ball pythons. It's just not their feeding day besides Toby. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of come on here and say, if you are doing something like redoing your animal's enclosure, it's probably best not to feed them the same day, just because the stress of the enclosure getting done and the handling and stuff isn't always a great combination with food. So yeah, I just wanted to say that all of the snakes that I am feeding today have had their enclosures with substrate in them redone for a couple days now, so I'm not worried about stress being an issue. Okay, so here is what is on the dinner menu for tonight. So let's just go ahead and start feeding. So first we're gonna feed Toby, my ball python, who is in this enclosure right here. He is getting a chick, and there we go, he took it right away. So Toby has always been a picky eater for me. He has a hard time taking rats and mice, but he will very happily take chicks and also African soft furs. I don't feed him chicks too often because chicks on their own aren't great food for ball pythons, but chicks just being used as variety here and there, it's great. I think offering your animals variety in their diet is awesome. So chick for Toby tonight, and then next week he will get an African soft fur. Alright, and next up here we have Willow, my children's python. She's just going to be getting a hopper mouse. That was pretty gentle. There we go, got the mouse for her. might be hard to see, but if you look very closely, you can see Richard, my rainbow boa, that's his nose poking out right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab a mouse for him. There, so if you look at Richard closely, you can kind of tell that his colors are kind of dull, so he's most likely going to be shedding sometime within the next week, but despite that, he's still happy to eat a meal. Okay, and right here we have Tangerine, my corn snake. She's always very food driven. Okay, and now we have my milk snake Rocky. He's actually right in that like bamboo tunnel right there. Rocky, however, never likes to eat from tongs. He much prefers me just putting the mouse in there, and typically within like 15 minutes of me just putting the mouse right there, he will come out and start eating it on his own. But for whatever reason, he's pretty hesitant to take off tongs, but you know, this works, so this is what we do. And the last snake of mine that I'm going to be feeding tonight is Ghost, my corn snake. Can you see the mice, or are you just looking at the camera? Hey, your food's here. There you go. As I was saying, corn snakes, in my experience, are always more than happy to take a meal. Alright, we have a little bit of a bonus animal because Josh is here. He's going to be feeding his sand boa. So this sand boa isn't the same as my sand boa. We both have sand boas, just in case anyone was wondering.
Take. There you go.
So that is where I'm going to leave this video off for now. I do really hope that you enjoyed watching me set up these enclosures and also just like go ahead and feed my snakes and stuff. I do hope that you guys enjoyed that. If you did enjoy it, I would appreciate it a ton if you went and gave this video a big thumbs up, and also subscribe to my channel if you aren't already. I would really love to have you here. Also be sure to check out all of my social media. It will all just be down in the description below, but I would love to have you guys over there, so feel free to check that out if you want to. With all of that said and done now, I'm just going to go ahead and end this video. Thank you guys once again so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all in my next video.